About the dire situation in Florida right now with Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida. Senator, your Twitter feed is full of your expressions of concern and also dire warnings to Floridians. One of the things you wrote this morning about the storm surge, quote, if you ignore evacuation orders, you are going to drown. I assume that these kinds of warnings need to be said this starkly because people don't necessarily heed them.
Well, when we talk about storm surge and how it kills people, that's how it kills people. Maybe we want to be blunt. I mean, that's people that die in storm surge, people that die in water, is because they drown. We're talking about projected between 12 and 18 feet. You know, the National Hurricane Center had to redo their storm surge projection map. They didn't have a color for 12 to 18 feet. So we're seeing some of those images now. If you see some of, luckily, it looks like most people heeded those warnings. A few may not have. Obviously, some of the people sending us videos did not. But part of the challenge now is how do you get to people? Because that water is not just going to go away for hours, and then it leaves behind all kinds of dangerous conditions on the ground. So the storm surge, the wind, this is already a catastrophic event. And I think the worst is yet to come between the rain and the areas it's going to go through. I mean, this thing's going to march right up I-4, up towards Northeast Florida, maybe Jacksonville or Daytona. A huge swath of Florida's population is going to be impacted by this in one way or another.
The I-4 corridor, as it's known, from Tampa, St. Pete, all the way to the east coast of Florida, there's likely going to be widespread damage up and down this coast. Tell any Floridians watching, where can they go for resources that they're going to need after the storm passes?
Well, obviously, we've been posting that on rubio.senate.gov. We're going to have it up there. We'll have it on my emergency disaster.org in Florida that does that and has it available to you. So that's obviously assuming that you have access to the internet. I'd also ask them to tune into local news and broadcasters because they're going to be putting out this information. After the storm passes, people are going to be eligible for FEMA assistance, maybe SBA assistance. We proactively, a couple days ahead, began to put out some of the documents that people are going to need to have to access that. We spoke to FEMA director this morning. They have simplified their process coming into the hurricane season to make it easier for people to access it. But there are going to be people left without homes. Without access to money and food for a substantial period of time. And we want them to know we'll be out there helping to make those resources available after the storm has passed and conditions are safe.
So Governor DeSantis recalled earlier that it took several days to reach Mexico Beach after Hurricane Michael in 2018. I assume post-storm access is a real concern.
Well, there's two things that limit the access. The first, obviously, is standing water, because this is not just storm surge, it's the amount of rain. You know, this Peace River, which goes through multiple counties through Hardee and all the way up to Polk County. And the low-lying areas there are going to be flooded by both rain that's been happening now for a few days, along with the storm surge. So there's the water impediment, but then there's also road debris. One of the things we talked to FEMA about is the removal of debris is something that needs to happen, because without the debris removal, without the bulk collection and you're moving trees and limbs and all the stuff that's on the road, you can't get emergency crews in there. You can't get power restoration going. So that's going to be one of the first tasks once it's safe and conditions allow, is debris removal, in addition to the water situation in these low-lying areas, which could stand for some days.
Industries across Florida are going to feel this storm acutely. Maxar Technologies says at least 75% of Florida's citrus belt is under threat of heavy flooding. The fertilizer company Mosaic, which is based in Tampa, bracing for substantial impact at its mining and production facilities in the state. That's obviously important because high fertilizer prices have made food prices soar worldwide. What resources are going to be there to provide to these industries if they do, in fact, take these projected hits?
Well, for the first time ever, back 4 years ago, we were able to get the Department of Agriculture to include agricultural losses and some of those catastrophic losses as part of the loss. And we're going to have to do that again. The citrus industry in Florida is already teetering on the brink because of citrus greening. They lose this year's crop and a bunch of trees. You can't just restart that. That takes time in the planting season and the growing season and so forth. So it's going to be a big hit for them. The phosphate industry, obviously, the fertilizer industry, that's a new dynamic. And there's two issues of concern there. One is environmental, the impact it might have because that water is going to flow back in other places. And the other, as you said, is the loss of this fertilizer supply. And it's one that we're going to really have to examine. It's one of first impression. It's the first time we'll face that kind of loss, and we'll have to see how we work that into any disaster relief. It's hard to tell until there's a full assessment. This is going to be a multi-billion-dollar event, unfortunately.
All right. Well, stay in touch with us, Senator Rubio. Obviously, we want to help you and the citizens of Florida get the message out as much as we can. Appreciate it.